I'm going to be talking about the rules to Settlers of Catan, or what's commonly known nowadays as just Catan. Not really sure why they changed the name of it. But hey, this has been around since 1995. Look at this. I've got my old copy, and then I've got my older copy. Been out since 1995. It got the Spiel du Jour Game of the Year, the German Game of the Year award for 1995. If you haven't played this game yet, you're missing out. This is James with the Board Game Network. We're in here giving you rules and unboxings and all kinds of stuff. But today I want to talk about Settlers of Catan. It's about you settling an island called Catan. That's the setup, and it plays 2 to 4 players. However, they also have a 5 and 6 player expansion, and I don't think it's official, but you can play up to 8 players if you own 2 copies of the game and you put another ring around the island with the tiles from the second game. It plays 8 and up, and it plays in about 2 hours. To start, you sort your resources here. You have ore, you have bricks, you have timber or wood, you have wheat or grain, you have sheep or fields. They've gone through different words, and every edition of this has different artwork, so if yours doesn't look like mine, that's fine. So you have 5 different resources. You have these development cards, you shuffle those, and they give you different things. There's victory points in here, soldiers, Monopoly. They explain to you what they do at the bottom of the card. So you shuffle those up, and then you set up the island, and what you do is you randomly mix these tiles, and you put a row of 5, and then 2 rows of 4, and then 2 rows of 3. And if you've got a newer set, it has a ring around it of water, and these have fixed ports on here. But I think you may also have included these tiles here that lets you turn them over, shuffle them up, and randomly put ports around here. I always like the randomness myself, because then you're not stuck into knowing where the perfect spot is every game. And that's the great thing about this game, is because there's tiles laid out here that are randomized every game, you never know what you're going to get until you lay it out. And these numbers on top represent what happens when you roll that number on the die, and this just starts with an A, B, C, D, and then you skip over the desert tile, E, F, and you go around in a ring until you get to the center. When you set these up, you'll notice that, at least in my set, the 6s and 8s are red, because in theory those are the ones that are going to be rolled the most. Actually 7 is rolled the most, but that's a bad number because that moves the robber. But 6 and 8 are equally likely to roll in theory, and then 5 and 9, and then 4 and 10. This is a game that teaches you statistics, actually. On 2 dice that are rolled, you'll notice this one's got dots at the bottom. That means in theory that you should roll the dice, this number, that many times out of 36, I think, die rolls. So the better numbers are going to have more dots down here. So on your turn, what you do is, to see who goes first, you just roll the dice, see who's got the highest number. That person goes first. And they pick a settlement and a road. And the settlements go on an intersection between 3 tiles. And then a road goes in between 2 tiles. Now that's not exactly right. If you're at the edge of the island, you can set a settlement at the edge of an island. You're setting it on the corner of one of these hexagons here. 1, 2, you're setting it on the corner. So whoever goes first, they set a settlement and a road down, and then you rotate to the left. So let's say red is to my left, and they might pick this spot, and then white picks a spot, and then what happens is white gets to go again. And this works whether you got 2 players or 3 players or 4 players or 5 players or 6 players. So white goes again and they might pick another spot. Now when white goes the second time, they actually get resources for whichever one they placed second. So this would be 2 sheep and a brick, and they get those. And then red would go again. We're rotating backwards this time. A settlement and a road, and we've got an ore, a brick, and a sheep. And then blue, the first player, the player who rolled the highest, then turns around and goes last. So whoever goes first also goes last. So that's a brick and a timber and a sheep. So these go in people's hands. They hold them up so people can't see them. You'll notice when you're placing, you cannot place a settlement next to another settlement. You have to have at least one corner of the hexagon empty in between 2 settlements. So the closest you can be is like this, or you could be directly across, or like this, but you can never set 2 settlements on corners next to each other. That's a common confusion with the rules. You have to be at least one corner empty in between them, so the most you can get around a tile would be 3 settlements. So to play this game, once everybody's got 2 settlements and 2 roads out, the first person, he rolls the dice, and then whatever die number rolls, that number on the board produces resources. So in a case of a 6, timber would get a resource, and so white is on timber, so white would get a timber card. And then 6 is also wheat, and blue would get wheat. Every number out here has 2 occurrences on the board, except for 2 and 12. There's only 1 of each of those. Here's a 12, and here's a 2, but everything else has 2. And you'll notice they do a good job of spreading the 6s and 8s out so they're not next to each other, because that would make that a really good spot to put your settlements in. Once you've rolled the dice, then you see if you can trade cards with anybody. You say, well, I've got a wheat, but I need a brick. Do you want to trade? Or I've got a timber. Anybody give me a sheep for a timber? I'm looking for a timber. And if somebody wants to trade, then you just trade with them. You don't have to trade 1 for 1. You could say, I will give a sheep and a wheat for a brick. You'll notice that some resources will be more rare than others. No matter what game you're playing, there's always going to be rare ones and more common ones. You'll also notice that like bricks, there's only 3 brick tiles. So that one's commonly rare in the game. And you'll notice there's also only 3 ore tiles. So depending on what numbers land on those, they could be very rare, or they might have good numbers on them, and something else might be rare. But these dice, they never roll the way you think they're going to roll. So there's always something rare. And then once you're done trading with everybody who's willing to trade with you, there's this resource, or this reference card here that shows what you can buy. And it takes a timber and a brick to buy a road. It takes a timber, a brick, a wheat, and a sheep to buy a settlement. It takes 2 wheat and 3 ore to build a city. And it takes a wheat, a sheep, and an ore to get a development card. Now, you cannot, since you know already you can't put a settlement next to another settlement, you're going to have to build a road, say there, before you can put another settlement down. Because you can't just put settlements out here nowhere. They have to be at the end of one of your roads. So pick good spots at the beginning of the game so that you can build roads to put down more settlements. And cities actually replace settlements. So if you buy a city, you take off a settlement and put a city down. You'll notice there's point values next to these. Your goal is to get to 10 points before anybody else does. You'll notice a settlement has 1 point and a city has 2 points. So you already start the game with 2 points. Everybody does. If you replace a settlement with a city, then that's now worth 2 points. So at this point, if I replaced a settlement with a city and added another settlement, I would be 2, 3, I would be at 4 points. Roads don't get you anything except for they allow you to build more settlements. No points. Development cards has question mark on the points because you might have victory points in there, but you might not get them either. There are army cards in there that you get, which is the most common card in there, or a soldier card. And what that does is when you roll a 7, the robber moves. You'll notice that this desert's over here. I just randomly placed it. The most balanced way to play this is to play it in the middle. I like playing it randomized, but especially like if you're a new player or this is your first game, you might want to fix it in the middle so that you don't have as lopsided an island. And then when you roll a 7, that moves the robber, and if you move it next to somebody's settlement, you get to randomly draw a card from them. They hide the cards up here, and then you're going to pull one at random from them. Now if there's, like in this case, where there's white and red, you don't get one from each. You're just going to say, I'm going to pull one from red, or I'm going to get one from white. But what a soldier card does is it allows you to move this, the robber marker, to another space. So especially like if it's on you, you may want to get a soldier so that you can move it off of you, because a soldier or a robber on this space stops this space from producing. So if you roll a 5 in this case, then the sheep does not produce for red and yellow. So it stops the production. So you get soldier cards, and then that allows you to move the robber off of you onto somebody else. And then you get to randomly draw a card from them. So a soldier card allows you to do with the robber what a 7 does. It allows you to pick up the robber and move it off of you or off of whatever tile it's on and move it onto a different tile. And you can move it onto a blank tile that doesn't have anybody next to it, or you can be more aggressive and move it onto a tile that somebody's there and then pull a random card from them. So it allows you to do what a 7 does. You can, when you're trading, you can trade with the other players, any players out there, but there's also these ports out here, and these ports have numbers on them. It says 2:1, and there's ones that say 3:1 with a question mark. The ones that say 2:1 also have an icon, like this one's got timber, here's brick, there's wheat, sheep, and ore, and then there's the ones with 3:1. What a 3:1 is it allows you to trade any 3 of the same resource for a different resource. So that's, you're trading down for sure, but you may be trading stuff you have a whole bunch of for something you really need. You might be trading 3 wheat for 1 timber or something. No, maybe there's no timber out, maybe nobody wants to trade you and you need a timber to build a road. So the 3-for-1 allows you to trade 3 of any one commodity or resource for a different one. The 2-for-1 says trade 2 of this specific resource for 1 of anything. So this one has a sheep on it, so that means if I have 2 sheep in my hand, I can trade it for 1 of any other resource. So that's how that trading works. So even if people won't trade you cards, you are able to trade on your own. The great thing about this game is if plan A doesn't work, there's usually a plan B or a plan C. People won't trade you. You have 3 of something in your hand you don't want. Try to get a 4th one. You can always trade 4-for-1. Even though you don't have a port, you can trade 4 of anything for 1 of something else. So that's the different ways of trading. Trading with other players, trading 4-for-1, 3-for-1, or 2-for-1. So if you've got 3 of something you don't want, try to get a 4th one. If everybody has it and nobody wants it, maybe they'll give you another one cheap, and then you can trade those 4 for something else, something different. Once you're done with that, you do your building, putting new roads down, putting settlements, putting cities, buying a development card. Now when you buy a development card, you just draw the top card, and this one's a victory point. This is actually the only card you can play immediately. Everything else you have to hold until your next turn And even if you buy 2 of them, you can only play 1 per turn. And so you'd wait until your next turn around, and you do get to look at them to see what there's there. And you can play them anytime on your turn. So let's say that you have the robber on your space on the 6, and you're like, I don't want that there, I might roll a 6. But you have a soldier in your hand, you can flip that soldier up before you roll the dice, move that robber, and then roll the dice. And that way, like that 6, I actually get my resources from that. So those are the development cards. There's only 2 things that I haven't talked about that give you points. There's the largest army. Whoever has a minimum of 3 soldiers, once you play these, they stay up. And if you have at least 3 soldiers and you have more than anybody else, then you have the largest army card, you get that. Now if you have, let's say I have 3 soldiers here, and somebody else gets 3 soldiers after I already have this, they do not get to take this from you. They have to go above you in quantity before they can take it from you. Otherwise, you continue to hold it if you're tied, whoever gets it first. The other, and this is worth 2 victory points. The other one that gives you victory points is the longest road, and it gives you 2 victory points. And you have to have a minimum of 5 roads in a row, not wying off. They have to be contiguous, one long road. It can go around in a circle or something like that, as long as you can follow the path and you're not counting Ys off. So in this case, like if I had this 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I have a Y, this would be 5. I could only count 1 part of the Y. I couldn't count both parts. And that's worth 2 points each. 2 points also. And this works the same way as the largest army. If somebody ties you after you already have this, they don't take it from you. They have to beat you, go above you before they can take this from you. So that is Settlers of Catan. That's how you play this game. If you do not have this and you like board games, this is a must buy. This one will stay in your collection for a long time and you will play it a lot. Make sure you tune in all the time for all the latest videos at the Board Game Network. Check out all our rules that we're providing you, and find out which ones you think you'd like. Look and see which ones look interesting to you. This one is a must buy for those people that like board games. Plays 2 to 4. I've never really played it 2-player. It's excellent with 4 players. What this island is very cramped, and it makes it very hard to grow, which is part of the strategy of this game, making sure you're trying to be mobile and not getting cramped into a corner. Like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel.